Now we are recording. Hi, this is DJ Tina, host of HMTV Canada Easing. On the phone with me today is Ken from the band Bagdaddios. Hi Ken, I hear you're getting ready for a huge event that will contribute a great noteworthy cause to help the homeless. Can you tell us about Blankfest?
Absolutely, Tina. First of all, greetings from Brooklyn, New York. It's a pleasure to be talking to all of our friends up in Canada up there. We've actually played there before on a couple of occasions, and we found all the people have been very, very nice to us, and they sure know their rock and roll, and there's some great homegrown bands up there, too. I just wanted to put that in the beginning. You asked me about Blankfest. Blankfest is a benefit show that we organized. We actually founded it back in 1997. It started innocently enough the year before, in 1996. I asked a couple of friends to give me some blankets, which I would drive around and hand to anybody I saw on the street homeless in New York City, on Christmas Eve. I just figured it would be a nice gesture to do for people who were less fortunate. In 1997, we had no more blankets. I went to all my friends and they said, "Hey, you cleaned this out last year."
Oh,
and I started racking my brain about, well, golly, what can we get to give to the homeless? How can we get these blankets? And next thing you know, it just occurred to me, well, I'm a musician. I've got friends with bands. Why don't we have a benefit show? We'll charge as a price of admission to get into the show just a blanket, any condition, and those blankets are the ones that we'll just drive around and hand to the homeless.
What are some of the highlights of Blankfest, such as the lineup of bands appearing at this event?
Oh, geez. Well, the beautiful thing about Blankfest is the kind of spirit that takes place in the club when everyone's under the same roof. Usually when you get a lot of bands and they're trying to make it in this business and they want to get noticed and they're on the bill with other bands, sometimes, things get a little competitive. Like, one band will want a better time set, or another band complains because the sound man was, treating them better or whatever. You get a lot of that stuff in clubs, and I would imagine it's no different in other cities as well. But in New York, it's very, very competitive. But with Blankfest, you'll see guys from other bands hanging out, trading notes, talking, trading phone numbers or email addresses. Next thing you know, you got guys collaborating with each other after the fact, and it's a nice little atmosphere where people really get into the spirit of giving in more ways than one.
Is Blankfest like a tour event?
Well, it didn't start as a tour event. For years we just had it in New York. Actually, it's not even in New York City where we had it. I grew up in a suburb of New York, about 30 miles outside the city, called Nyack. It's on the Hudson River, very scenic community, settled by the Dutch in the 1500s, and it's otherwise known as the Hudson Valley. Nice area. So we would have it in a small little club. The first one we had was in a club called My Place, and my was spelled M-A-I. It was owned by a Thai restaurant, which was next door. It was the only club in town that was willing to take the event on. And they decided to have it on a Sunday because Sunday is traditionally a very slow night in the bar community. So we had it on a Sunday. It was only for a few hours, and we raised 40 blankets. That was in 97. Then in 98, we had 70 blankets. Then we had 115 blankets contributed in 99, and it's just growing every year but one. In 2001, there were a lot of charities competing that year, including a lot of the 9/11 charities, which is understandable. But that's the only year that we had a dip in blankets. Every year since then, it's been this big, huge leap in the amount of blankets donated for the homeless. And a couple of years ago, the New York Daily News ran a feature article about what we did, and that started attracting a lot more attention. And so we were approached by the gentleman from Let'sRockAmerica.com, and they wanted to put on a show in New Jersey. So that was the first real big satellite show that really took off. And then when my band, the Bagdaddios, were touring England last year, we happened to mention it on British Armed Forces Radio during an interview. And at our very next show, a gentleman from Nottingham showed up and proposed we have the first Blankfest UK. And then we've also started other shows in Milwaukee and Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and which is actually anchored by our former bass player, John Sidoti, who now lives with his wife and kids after he left our group. And an enterprising lady by the name of Gaynor Fletcher, who who's originally from Liverpool, England, but has been living in Ontario for the last 20-some-odd years. She also used to work as a publicist, and she's a photographer of some renown. She read about the UK story, contacted Mark, the fellow who was running the UK Blind Fest, because she thought it was a great idea, and he recommended that she speak directly to me, and within days we put together the first Blind Fest Canada in about 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because the first Blind Fest ever, the one in New York in '97, we put that together in 10 days, and but actually the one in Canada I thought was done a lot better, a lot more organized, and I'm so surprised having Gaynor Fletcher on board because she knows the business quite well, and she was able to get word out. It was covered on every major television station out of Toronto, and we had it in a small nightclub outside of Toronto, actually in Guelph. And we had James Gordon, who's Canada's most foremost folk singer. I believe his tunes are performed the most amount on Canadian Idol. We had a young, enterprising singer, 18 years old, very, very hungry. As a matter of fact, he wanted to do not just the first Blank Fest Canada, but he also wanted to travel to New York the next week and do the New York Blank Fest, so we gave him an early 2:30 afternoon time slot. He turned out to be Peter Mookie Morris, who was a finalist on Canadian Idol this past season.
Wow.
So that's another benefit about Blind Fest. You get a chance to see some great performers on their way up. You know?
Right.
So it didn't start as a tour, but now it's happening in so many places. And of course, we try to be at as many of those as humanly possible. Of course, that's impossible because sometimes, Milwaukee had theirs the same week, I believe, as the New Jersey Festival. The UK's was the same day as the New York Festival. So sometimes you got to pick and choose, and sometimes it's just all a matter of how close are we to it, and can we get there?
What inspired Bagdaddios to start this event back in 1997? What inspired the band?
Oh, you mean what inspired us to put the first Blind Fest together?
Yes.
I guess just the fact that I had gotten blankets the year before, handed them out to everybody, and it was such a good feeling. I wanted to do that again, and when my friends came up dry with blankets, not having anywhere else to get them from, we decided to put the show on. Plus the fact that it's not just to raise blankets, it's also to raise public awareness. And that's one of the bigger reasons why we don't mind having it in communities that are outside of major urban areas. Because for people who live in urban areas, I lived in one of the better sections of Manhattan a couple of years ago, the Upper East Side. And even in a nice area like that, where you wouldn't expect to see people living on the streets, one morning I opened up an apartment door, and I saw a homeless person laying in the lobby before I stepped out into the street. And so you don't really have to educate a lot of New York City people about the homeless. They see it day in and day out. But for people that grow up even just 10 or 15 miles outside the city, they're kind of insulated from the truth because the media doesn't really cover it as much. It becomes like a shop-worn cliche in telemovies. Almost like a prop. Well, there's a homeless guy in the New York City scene,
Yeah.
And, it's endemic in our society. It's gotten to the point where I've always joked, and it's not a funny joke either, politicians don't really care about the homeless because there's just no oil underneath them. If you discovered oil underneath the homeless, then everyone will care about them, That's just the way it is. It's the homeless are not a profit center. And so if politicians won't take care of them, if government won't take care of them, then it's up to people like you and myself to take care of them. Because that could be my brother, that could be my daughter, that could be my grandfather, that could be somebody that means the world to me, and I don't even know,
Has there been any obstacles you faced in the past in starting Blank Fest, and has this event been well received and welcomed in many cities to date?
The only obstacle I would say was maybe a little bit of apathy. I get really charged up for this event. I guess that kind of comes across in the interview.
It does, yes.
It's going to be passionate about something, And I guess with other people, they go, that's a great idea, but they might not follow up on it. Although you don't need everybody to get crazy about it. A couple of key people that get enthusiastic about the idea, and it just takes off. Because, for instance, I did a broadcast interview on NPR radio a couple of years ago. Some family, a family of 5 from the Pennsylvania-New Jersey border, heard the interview, and they took a collection around their town, and then they piled their van filled with about 40 blankets. And on the day of the show, they drove up, walked in, dropped all the blankets, shook our hands, and left.
Wow.
Stick around. I said, well, let me buy a dinner or something to drink. It could be a soda if you're just driving right back. And they were like, no. They said they just wanted to meet us, and they just wanted to make the donation and let them know that people were listening. And then there was a businessman out in Minnesota that heard about it. He shipped us a couple of boxes of military blankets that his factory had made, and it was an overage on a previous order. And he just sent them free of charge. Somebody else out in the Poconos Mountains area sent us blankets. It's that kind of stuff that really it lets me know that we're not in a vacuum, that we're actually making a difference, you know?
Have you heard any success stories of the people you've helped in the past?
I haven't heard any success stories per se, but I will tell you this. There are times, because now I live and work in New York City, there are times when I'll be walking around, and it'll be sometime like after the New Year, and I'll walk past a place that I had driven by only a few weeks before on Christmas Eve. And I'll see somebody laying out there, for the evening, all bedded up, and they've got a brand new blanket around them. And I know that was something that we helped make possible. I can tell you that every time we hand a blanket to a homeless person, we usually get a very positive response. One of the best things about giving a homeless person a blanket isn't just, well, you're just keeping them warm, but you're actually showing them somebody cares about them. It's like, these people are so used to being treated like an inanimate object.
Yes, that's true.
We've almost lost their
dignity.
They've almost lost their human dignity.
Yeah.
And, especially on a holiday, which maybe, who knows, maybe 5, 10, 20 years ago, they were celebrating by exchanging presents with loved ones just like you and I. And now all of a sudden, that's a distant memory, that's gone, and they may never get back there again. And then all of a sudden, a complete stranger hands them a blanket and says, hey, happy holidays, or Merry Christmas, or whatever,
I think what you have going with Blankfest is awesome and rare because not many bands today are contributing to society to help noteworthy causes, such as helping the homeless. Will Blankfest be appearing on TV this year, and will you be featuring videos at this event?
Well, it's funny you should ask that because we had a New York filmmaker, Christina Latour. She put together a documentary which aired on Manhattan Cable a couple of years ago. It went over so well that she took a couple of clips and she put them up on YouTube. And every now and then we'll get an email from somebody that we would have normally have never met, but they saw the clip, they did a little research on it, they looked it up on Wikipedia, or they looked it up, they Googled it, and then they found out that we were behind it, and then they found out about the band, and then they emailed us, which was kind of nice. It shows that somewhere, even when you're not even aware of it, the people are paying attention. I think it's kind of sad that most bands don't help out, but to be fair to them, it's probably because they don't realize that there are options. Like it's an overwhelming task to make sure that the homeless population is taken care of, that they're fed or clothed or somehow gotten off the streets. And you can't hit a 5-run homer, so to speak. So the bottom line is you've got to take your base hits here and there. And so if it means handing a homeless person a blanket and keeping them from freezing to death on the city streets, you do that on day 1. Then on day 2, maybe you can help get them a meal. And then on day 3, maybe you get them to a shelter or get them to a place where they're out of the elements. And then maybe someday you're able to help re-educate them, get them medical care, get them back on their feet, and get them to become a contributing member of society.
Can you tell us the dates and locations planned for Blankfest 2008 this year?
You betcha. Well, the first one I think we're going to kick off the season with is the New Jersey Blankfest. That's going to be done by the guys from www.letsrockamerica.com. These guys, Rich Cubit, and then his crew there, They're fantastic human beings. They've contributed a lot of money out of their own pockets to make sure this event goes off, and they even purchased more blankets. That's on Sunday, December 7th, 2008, and that'll be held in, I believe it's going to be Garwood, New Jersey, just like the last 2 years. This is the third year we're having it in New Jersey. We're still looking for a location for Blankfest UK in Nottingham, anywhere in the Nottingham, England area. The club that did it last year, now they've come up with their own charity for the homeless, which that's great. But we still want to have a Blankfest because the people need blankets over there too. It gets pretty cold in England in the winter. So if anybody is listening and has any connections over in the UK, especially in the Nottingham area, just get in touch with us, and then hopefully we can put you in touch with Mark, who goes under the stage name Dark Poet. He's a great guy. We haven't set a date for the England show yet. The one up in Canada, Blankfest Canada, is going to be held this year at the Elmo Combo, which, again, being up in that neck of the woods, I'm sure you know that that's one of Canada's most historic nightclubs. The Rolling Stones recorded half of the Love You Line albums there. Nirvana has played there. Every big name in the business has played there at one point or another, and I'm amazed that the gentleman in Rosa Club is a generous soul, a fellow named Mr. Abbas, who actually spends his spare time when he's not running his club, going to homeless shelters and volunteering there with the homeless. I mean, directly. You know, it's not like somebody does it for him. He goes and he does it on his own dime, actually. And so he's working with us to help promote this, and it's going to be on Saturday, December 14th, and I'm going to be actually performing there with my band, and I'm actually putting a special band together for the occasion because the whole Bagdaddios band actually couldn't make it because of prior obligations, family stuff. But I'll be there. We're hoping we're going to get James Gordon back. We're hoping we've got word out to Peter Mookie Morris. It's difficult to get him involved because since he's blown up pretty big on Idol, now he's got representation people, and I'm sure he's got a full schedule. But if he can find a little spare time, even if he just shows up and waves to the crowd, that'd be fantastic. And of course, the bands that played at the first Blankfest Canada last year, we're going to be seeing who wants to come back to that as well. Oh, we got the Cramdens. They seem to be a pretty big band up in Ontario. So that one's looking good for the Elmo Combo. And then finally, the New York one is going to be December 21st, which is funny because the first Blankfest ever in 1997 was also on Sunday, December 21st. And that's at a little Irish restaurant and club called Bruxelles. It's in New York on Main Street. And anybody that lives in the Hudson Valley knows where that place is at. And the Milwaukee one, I'm trying to remember now. I believe that's being held on December 13th, which would be, December 13th. Oh, yeah. Okay, Blankfest Canada, that's December 13th also. It's a Saturday night. So I think I've got them all covered. We might actually even have a few more shows. Some people are getting back to me about Northeast Pennsylvania, Atlanta, and Texas, but it's still a little bit too early to tell.
I was curious, are you going to be selling CDs and Blankfest merchandise at this event this year?
Good question. You know, it's funny. As far as Blankfest merchandise is concerned, every now and then a company will volunteer to print the Blankfest logo on T-shirts. When they do that, we usually either give them away, or if somebody insists on paying us for them, and we do have people that insist on paying us, we use that money either for gasoline to drive around and hand out the blankets, or we actually purchase more blankets with it, or we make a donation to, like, say, the Red Cross. You know,
Awesome.
I've often maintained that if we make dime one from this event, that somebody went wrong somewhere. This isn't about anybody making any money. That's why it doesn't bother me that we all lay out literally hundreds of dollars each year out of our own pockets to make sure it happens, because we would never want anything to detract from the benefit. Many times you read about where people donate, and then it turns out percentages are taken either for publicists or for advertising or for people to have a salary. Anyone involved in Blankfest does not get a salary. It's all volunteer work. There's even been a couple of bands that said they needed to be reimbursed for gasoline or for van rental, and I told them, Patty Rothberg, who was on EMI Records and was on The Tonight Show and MTV and toured with the Black Crowes in Japan, Patty Rothberg rented a car on her own dime and drove up to Blankfest to perform on several occasions. If Patty Rothberg can pay for a rental car, you guys can. So we don't pay anybody. We don't. In other words, every dime goes to the homeless.
Mm-hmm. I really dig how Bagdaddios has a trademark slogan, "Indie to Death." Did your fans come up with this slogan?
Yeah. Well, when you've got all the music communities so close together, you borrow on themes. And, it's always like Gangsta to the Death and stuff like that in the hip-hop community. And I got a lot of friends that do hip-hop and R&B. And I guess I'm very proud of the fact that when we started this band in 1992, we financed everything ourselves. We all work day jobs. I work for EMI, doing publishing royalties. Neil works for a radio station. Phil, our bass player, is a dental assistant.
Wow.
The only person that is a full-time musician amongst us is our permanent substitute lead guitarist, Laurent, who's originally from Paris, and he plays Broadway shows, and but any dime that we make from our day jobs, we pour into the band. So we finance our own CDs, our own tours, we come up with our own advertising, and at one point, one day, I just signed off on an email to another promoter who's very big in the indie community. Indie to the death! Exclamation point. And I thought, wow. I said, yeah, it didn't hit me at first, but I started signing off on all my emails that way. And then one day, I just got sick and tired of whatever lame slogan we had up on our MySpace page, so I put that next to our picture. And then the next thing you know, we started putting it on T-shirts. Mm-hmm. And then someone snapped a really great photo of myself. I usually don't photograph that well. Sorry to break it to you. we were playing a big show at CBGB, the long-gone, legally lamented CBGB. This band played its third ever show when I was a senior in college. It was awesome. It was always a great place. I always loved it. We even wrote a song called Christmas in CBGB, which somebody made into an animated video, which you can actually see on YouTube, too. And one day we were playing there, and someone took a great snapshot. It was during one of the better moments of the show when I was practically wrapped around a microphone giving it everything I had. And it's one of those photos that, even if I wasn't, let's take my personal feelings out of it. Even if it was just somebody that you didn't even know, you'd go, what a really good photo. I mean, the definition was great. It's black and white, effective use of shadow and lighting. And I said, what can I do with this photo? I wasn't quite sure at first, but then I made up a big, huge poster for the John Bravado's clothing store, which is now on the same site as where CBGB is. The irony is I never went down and gave it to him because I was scared they'd say no about putting it up on the wall because they've got all these artifacts from CBGB. So I put a caption about, this is Ken Rowell from the Bagdaddios appearing at CBGB's main stage May 1st, 2002. And then all of a sudden it just hit me, why don't we just put support your local musician, or better yet, support your local artist. And then I thought, how about support your local indie artist? And we put that caption on the poster, and on the top of them, we would also put Indie to the Death on a limited amount. Mm-hmm. And we put out several copies of them, and a couple of friends from different cities said, hey, that looks good. Let me put that up in my community. Try and inspire people to support their local independent artists. I had a friend from Germany who said, I can give you a translation in German, and then if you can produce a couple of posters, I'm bringing them over to München, Munich, and Berlin, in the fall, and I'll put them up around. And then the next thing you know, it's in 24 different languages, including Arabic, Hebrew, Russian, Italian, French, Dutch, Norse, Greek, and we've been networking this image that we took from that original CBGB photograph with the message to support your independent local artists, and we're just networking it around the world. We've sort of taken it upon our own selves. It might be a bit presumptuous, but we just felt somebody should step up and really be an advocate, for local independent artists, because it's those local independent artists those guys that nobody knows, they're the lifeblood. They're where the fresh ideas are coming from. It's like if you're familiar with Major League Baseball. There's the major leagues, but there's also the minor leagues. And the players in the minor leagues, they're hungrier. They're there because they love it. And eventually, some of them are actually going to grow up into the big league level, and they're going to rock your world.
I understand that you have 2 albums out currently. Can you tell us about them?
Sure. Well, like I said before, we financed our own albums. The first one that came out was Willie Horton, Here's a Who. It was in 1996, and we threw it together. I think it cost us $600 to record it. It cost infinitely more to even press it as a CD, but it's okay. Like I said, we were all working by that time. And, we've actually put out a couple of pressings since then, because it seems to be, even though it was done early and with not as much work as subsequent recordings, for some reason there's a certain charm about it. I guess, the whole newness of the band, a lot of us were still in our 20s at the time, and it was a real exuberant blast of 3 and 4 chord old school punk rock. Mm-hmm. And we sang about the stuff that was most familiar with us. Like, for instance, the opening song on the album, which has become kind of a signature tune for us. It's even been used for a few documentaries that's appeared on national television. It's a song called Welcome to New York. And it's one that I never get tired of playing. It's a lot of fun, and it's great to hear a crowd singing along with it. So that album always has a special place in my heart. A couple of years later, we wanted to put out a second album. Finances were limited, of course. Again, independent artist doesn't necessarily mean successful independent artist. And so we financed a 4-song EP, which we called That Should Hold 'Em. And that spawned a video for a song, This Job Sucks, which, again, that was sort of like a little bit of an anthem. See, that's the thing about being in a band. You have a bad day, and you come home and you write about it. Next thing you know, you've got something to sing about, So, it's all right. We put that one out. That was kind of cool. And then next thing you know, it took us a few more years, but we finally came out with a second album called Autopsy Turvy. That came out in 2006, and that by far is our best recorded album, mm-hmm. our best produced album, and we're still actually making videos for that and still doing a lot of the material for that, although we've got a boatload of new material, which we're probably going to be working on it in the studio when we get back together. We're actually taking a break right now. Mm-hmm. I'm doing a solo album, which is a lot of acoustic tunes. The theme of which is almost more of like, well, getting a few years older, and while I love punk rock, I can't always keep going at full tilt, and it's a time for reflection. Just, mm-hmm. I don't know, I just want to explore a different vein of songwriting besides screaming F you into a microphone and kicking the amps to 11. So, we've already, as a matter of fact, my voice sounds like hell today. We were up on a rooftop in Bushwick, Brooklyn, doing a music video for like 11 hours yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun, too. We actually pulled together, because, see, it's a solo album. So, it's not like I can ask the Bagdaddios to be in the video. You don't want to confuse people. So I actually got my good friend Gwen to sit in on bass for the video. And I pulled a great friend, Robert, who's an actor and a musician, to play lead guitar, and this real cool guy from the Washington, D.C. area named Andy to sit in on drums. They knew the song cold, so we went up there, we went through the paces, and we're working with Carlos Bida. He's a real solid filmmaker that actually spent a lot of time in the Czech Republic a couple of years ago doing artwork. And he's a native New Yorker, though. And so Carlos really, he's got a good vision for the video, and we're all excited about it. But, of course, when you do take after take after take, you're singing along with the original soundtrack. So try singing the same song 8 billion times, which is what your voice sounds like afterward.
Who helps mix, record, and master all Bagdaddios music?
Well, it's more of a collaborative group effort, but somebody's got to be the Svengali behind it. And that somebody's a gentleman named Gary Solomon. Gary Solomon, you might not be familiar with his name, but he's been involved in a lot of great recordings. He's recorded with some of the best. He's recorded with Ray Charles. He's recorded with Spyro Gyra. He actually learned his stuff in Tony Bon Jovi's let's see, what was it, the record plant, I think? Well, anyway, he worked for Tony Bon Jovi. He was there when Tony first developed his cousin, John Bon Jovi. Gary knows the business inside and out. He's a seasoned vet, and he's an excellent musician, too. He's well-versed in several instruments, which helps a lot, because when you're looking for a certain sound, he almost instinctually knows where to go. And so he handled the first album, and we thought he did a great job, because he actually was able to pick up on the simplicity of what we wanted. And so he didn't overproduce. He just let it out there like it was. He took us to a gentleman down in Manhattan named Jonathan Best, who did the mastering, and John took care of it. And then we actually found a company on the New York-Canadian border. I forget on which side, but I think it was our first CD was actually printed in Canada. And I can't remember the name of them for the life of me, but they were really easy to work with. For That Should Hold Them, we actually went over to there was a heavy metal studio called Hollow Records in where was it? Spring Valley, New York. A real strong death metal scene going on there at the time. Might even still be going on. It's in Rockland County, not too far from Nyack in the Hudson Valley region. Mm-hmm. And those were the guys that did our 4-song EP, That Should Hold Them. And that was when we started working with Mesa Boogie dual rectifiers and Gibson Les Paul standards, and getting that real heavy, chunky crunch kind of sound that we didn't have on the first album. And then when we completed the album, we did the initial tracks at Hollow Studios, and we actually bounced around from studio to studio in Manhattan until we finally decided to take the hours and hours of tapes that we had, transfer them into Pro Tools, and then we went back to Gary Solomon and said, if you can take what we've got here and turn this into a louder, angrier album than the first album, but still keep that kind of sonic balance that you had on the first album, we'd be ecstatic. And that's exactly what Gary was a miracle worker, because I got to tell you, when we turned to him, we had gone through so many studios and through so many producers, because again, when you're working on a low budget, studios go out of business all the time, and then all of a sudden, you don't have somebody to work on your album anymore, and you got to take it somewhere else. So Gary really pulled it together and made it sound as professional and as tight as it did.
Awesome. Can you tell our audience about your latest music video, Gut Wrench? I found that video funny, and the live performance in that video is awesome.
Well, thank you. Gut Wrench. It's funny because we started canvassing around the country looking for video directors. We wanted to get people with different perspectives. And, we had our first video for This Job Sucks was done by an NYU film director, and that's cool. And then Fred Rowell from Chiz Animations did the animated music video for Christmas TBGB. And he was out of the Northeast, too, Connecticut, and he played drums for the punk rock band. So we were looking for somebody with a different kind of perspective that might be able to show us in a different light. And we found a fellow named, I know I'm gonna mispronounce his name. It's listed up on YouTube, but I believe it's Croy Asiani. I think that's his name. He's originally from Germany. Mm-hmm. He's only at the time he was working with us, he was only 25 or 26 years old. He'd come from Germany at the age of 19 and actually started working, believe it or not, in the adult film industry. I don't know if he wants me to say this or not. But in that industry, he was able to make some good money. And he took that money and just rolled it over some of the best equipment you could actually have, especially on an independent level. So he enjoyed our album so much. There was actually 3 songs he was pretty high on, but the one he really, really wanted was Gut Wrench. Now the irony is, if you see that video, I'm doing a lot of screaming in that video. So it's the kind of song that I just remember a comedy bit by Sam Kinison right before he died, which said if he knew, 10 years ago, that he was going to have to go out on stage and scream his lungs out every night, what he thought? Well, it's I kept trying to steer him away from Gut Wrench. I kept saying, well, what about Peace of Mind? What about Abby Hoffman or one of the other tunes? And he was like, no, Gut Wrench, that's the one. He goes, I have the perfect video in mind for it. I was like, okay, here we go. So yeah, we had basically recreate all that Primal Scream stuff.
Oh.
You know, again, you talk about being hoarse after a video session.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk for 2 days after that, after doing the video for that song. Let's see, I'm trying to think of everybody who was involved. You know, of course, the band was all enthusiastic about it, and the best part is we were able to use the city of New York as our backdrop for it. And at one point we needed to do the live band session, you know, for the performance scenes, and we needed like a warehouse, but we couldn't find one at short notice. He had just flown in from Phoenix. That's where Croy lives, and so we turned around, and I worked for EMI, and at the time, our offices were housed in a building on Park Avenue South, a 105-year-old building.
Oh, wow.
Huge ceilings and plaster and everything else like that. And in the back area, right by the elevators, the freight elevators where we threw our trash, we cleared all of that out there and snuck in over the weekend. Excuse me. This was like in May of 2006. And we commenced to recording several hours there. And it's funny because it's a cramped kind of area. And people at work, when they saw the video, didn't even realize where it was. But Croy used a wide-angle lens and was very creative in his lighting. And that video, you know, that's a video I stand by. That's something that I go, okay, that was kind of neat. And, you know, it even featured the New York City subway. And we needed a femme fatale for the video. And, again, we couldn't really afford to hire a model. But there's a great friend of ours, and I'm drawing a blank on her name now. She's going to kill me. But she's a singer-songwriter, and she can also dance. She does interpretive dancing and ballet and stuff like that. And she's just a real good friend. And every time, Amanda, and I think it's Amanda White, and she also sings with a church choir. So we just said, wear a short dress, show up, show a lot of leg. And basically, she's the girl I'm screaming at in the video.
What's the music scene like in New York, and what's the most popular genre of music?
Most popular genre? That's tough, because the first part of that question is, what's the music scene like in New York? And in one word, eclectic, you know? And there's just so much of it around. And, of course, it seems like, you know, all roads lead to New York, you know? I mean, first of all, at this video shoot yesterday, I was talking with Robert, and I said, hey, man, where are you from? He goes, I was born in Brooklyn. Really? You know? It's like, it's just so rare to find somebody in New York City, especially an artist, who was actually born in New York City, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, even I was born outside the city, and then, you know, everybody else I know, they're from Hawaii, they're from Amsterdam, they're from, you know, Canada. I mean, everywhere you go, there's transplants all over the place. And so, when you got diverse people coming from diverse cultures, you're going to get a lot of diverse art. And, yeah, I mean, you name it, okay? If there's a genre, we've got it. And chances are it's right next door or up the street or in the apartment above you. I mean, I remember when I first moved in Brooklyn, I couldn't get to sleep one night because there was all this loud music coming from downstairs. And this is a residential building where people stay with their kids, you know, older, retired people stay, you know. I mean, it's a residential building. It's not like a young, artsy, fartsy kind of community. I went downstairs, knocked on the door. The guys had a recording studio, a hip-hop recording studio in the apartment below ours. So, you know, you name it, we've got it. As far as most popular genre, that's tough to pin down. Hip-hop, obviously, is through the roof. Tremendous big. Mixing, you know, DJ music, that's pretty big. Because New York's got a real big international flair, and that stuff is huge everywhere.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I've been talking with a mix DJ from Australia who lives here in New York now, and she wants to actually take Bagdaddios songs and do house versions of them.
Cool.
I wasn't too keen on it first because I'd rather soften on than go to a dance club, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. But
the more I thought about it, I said if it could get our songs out there, and then eventually gets people familiar with the band, and then we could get them interested in like being independent artist activists or helping the homeless, then in the end, it's all a positive thing. So I've given her the go-ahead on it. I'm actually securing the tracks for her right now, and probably sometime next year, yes, you're actually going to hear punk rock music set to dance tracks.
Awesome. Where can fans access your music and Bagdaddios merchandise online through the internet? And do you have any Blankfest CDs that you're selling online?
Actually, both of our albums are on iTunes. You can buy them as individual songs, or you can actually even go and purchase the full album. That's fine. I think CD Baby's got our albums as well. Let's see what else. Merchandise. There's a little company called Cafe Press, and if you go to cafepress.com and you do a search for Bagdaddios, I believe we have 2 stores, including an Indie to the Death T-shirt, which seems to be the rage with a couple of kids in London who wanted some, and that was kind of neat, actually, because, hey, all my life, all I ever wanted to do was visit England, and then all of a sudden we're there and we're playing for these guys, and it was real enthusiastic response. I have to say our best show was in Nottingham. Those people are crazy there. And then the next thing you know, it's like I got an email back from this girl, Sarah. Her and her girlfriend have matching Indie to the Death T-shirts, which they photographed themselves in, which I thought was kind of neat, It's good to get the message out.
Okay.
Let's see, what else? We're going to purchase CDs. Oh, I'll tell you this. We have 2 MySpace pages. And the way we're looking at it, we have all of our holiday punk rock tunes are for free download.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we got Christmas to CBGB, Christmas Ain't for Lonely People. We're adding a new song called Another Lonely Christmas. You can tell we take a morose look at the holidays.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and our kick-ass version, our kick-ass punk rock version of Old Lang Syne, which was one of the funnest songs to ever do in the studio.
Cool. Can you give the URLs of your MySpace pages, the other 2?
Oh, sure. Okay. The best thing to do is go to www.myspace.com/Bagdaddios, spelled as one word, TheBaghdaddios. If you can go there, you've got a few tunes up there for free, actually. Okay. And then when you scroll down to our top friends, there's actually a MySpace page for Blankfest. Okay. That's our top number 1 friend. And then the one right next to it is called Free Indie Music for the Holidays. Okay. You click off on that one as well.
So those are the 2 where you can grab the tracks, right?
Yep, those where you can grab the tracks. Okay. And again, it's not like we're some big rock star band or something like that. We're just average Joes like everybody else. So it's like if people email us or send us a MySpace message, we'll holler right back. Maybe not right away. It depends on how many we get. It depends. It ebbs and it flows. Sometimes we'll have only like 4 hits a day on our page, and then one day we'll show up and there's like 2,000 hits. It's just bizarre, And it usually happens after like a news story comes out. Like the day after that daily news story came out, I had something like 300 emails.
Wow.
But to answer them all in 1 week, But it's good.
Yep.
I'd rather have that kind of attention than no attention at all,
Okay, before we wrap up our interview, do you have any last words?
Leave the gun, take the cannolis. That's my favorite set of last words.
Thank you, Ken, for allowing our e-zine to interview Bagdaddios. You're a gem, and we hope Blankfest is a huge success this year. You rock.
Oh, thank you, Tina. We think you rock harder, and you know what? Come on out to the one at the Elmo Combo on December 13th. We'll set a special table up for you and everybody in your crew.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you again.